better canvas that you have to put the paint job on, the overall paint job is better because of it.
If I do a better job at building stuff, it makes my painting better.
It literally does.
Is it the thing you hate the most, or is it the thing you don't like the most?
It's the thing that stops me from putting my paintbrush onto it.
It's making your life more difficult as a painter, especially as a beginner, because you've now got all of these obstacles to avoid during the painting process.
It's such a minimal investment of time and effort compared to the physical painting, but it adds so much intrinsic value to the model.
The worst thing you can do when cleaning your models is to... Hello everyone and welcome to Paint Perspective, episode 88. In this episode, we're going to talk about mistakes that you might be making when building your Warhammer miniatures and how it might be hurting your painting. We're also going to be going over a roundup of the January monthly painting challenge, which was hashtag Catachanuary. And we'll be talking about February's monthly challenge as well. Also our hobby hacks, of course. But first, how is everyone?
Yeah, I'm all right.
And that's it for this week. Yeah, no, good.
Tune in next week.
Yeah, good. I know it's becoming a bit of a running joke, and I'm probably going to get loads of stick from both of you for it. But I had...
Wait, let me guess. You finished Lycus, and it's done, and it's in your hand, and you're about to show us. Take it away, please.
So it's not finished yet, but I had a day off this week. So obviously I taught a class the weekend just gone. So I had a day off in the week to compensate for that. And I spent the day with painting with a friend over, just doing some painting. And I can safely say to you that Lycus is nearly done.
When you say nearly?
Nearly.
How nearly?
I've got to paint one spider arm. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So it's one arm to paint, and then
Sure.
and then she is done.
Excellent. The base
It's done.
rim painted
But
black.
in fairness to the base, I've seen the finished base.
Oh,
the
you
base
have.
has been done for
You've
a
seen
while.
evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George has seen evidence. You know, I'm not going to make George's job harder and point at the thing and say it's a picture, but there is a picture, and
almost complete.
I wanted the picture to be there so that people could actually see that I'm not just painting it with my mind, and it is actually being painted. Sorry,
This is
George.
how it will
Not
look
sorry.
like in my head.
I'm almost like leaning into it at the minute because we get comments, people saying like, "Oh, you guys never actually paint anything," and we do actually paint loads of stuff.
We do actually paint
We're
stuff.
just
It takes a
talking
long
about it.
time.
Yeah, it just around all the bits and
Several
bobs.
weeks.
Yeah. So sorry, not sorry, George, for the.
And also, this is a podcast. We're talking about painting miniatures.
Yeah,
It's
it's true.
perspective
Yeah.
on painting.
Does it
exactly.
mean physical? Yeah.
Yeah.
so yeah.
The manifestation of painting.
Yeah. What about you, Paul? What have you been working on?
Well, I started Lamarties.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
you have my attention.
Yeah. I thought it might grip you for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I started that. Put that together during the week, actually.
How'd you find the build?
Lots
Because
of
it's very, very fitting for this week's episode. So how'd you find it?
There seemed to be too many. They didn't need to be in as many bits as it was.
Yeah.
I just think they just thought, for the money, we need content. So let's just chop him in, like each leg into 12 bits. And
I don't remember. I mean, did you get one that got? I'm sure the one I got you wasn't put through a shredder because it didn't. It doesn't have that many parts. Surely, does it?
Maybe we can expand on that when we get into the main topic because that is a thing that I've noticed with certain characters.
Well, he's quite a simple character, and I
Yeah.
get that there was probably not much scope for bits on a sprue, but I think they just tried to make into as many separate parts as possible.
See, I'm glad you're saying this because it's not just me that's had issues with build of recent, and I'm quite happy
I'm not saying
we're
it's
sharing
difficult.
here. So.
I'm not saying it was difficult to build, but there just seemed to be more parts than was necessary
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah, no, fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
But the other side of the coin, I've put together, the starter set for Kill Team.
Yes,
I put together all of the Space Marine models.
they're great. They are.
Yeah.
Oh, you've not done the Death Guard ones? I thought you would have started with the Death Guard.
Well, I know, but I thought, well,
No, when do you eat? You don't eat the best stuff at dinner first, do you? You get
rid of the Brussels
you get the Brussels done
Get the
first,
Brussels out of the way.
and then you leave the roasties for afterwards.
Well,
don't you?
yeah,
So
sure,
No, start with your roast potatoes, then throw the rest away.
I mean, that's another way of doing it.
Oh,
Yeah,
God, let's start another flipping discussion in the chat about roast dinner.
roasties or Brussels. Yeah,
So no, I put them all together last night.
yeah.
I sat there and I put them all together. Sat there, me tools, cleaning those up and putting them together. They went all right. Obviously, they're push fit.
Yeah,
So
That must be the opposite experience, right? They're in like really few pieces.
Paul's going, there's not enough parts to these.
yeah. So we'll talk about those, I suppose, in the main topic. But so I put those together. I just thought, well, I've got those up there. I've got a can of Mephiston Red. I'll just paint them all in one go. After I think we had a discussion about batch painting.
Yes.
Was it last episode or the episode before?
yeah.
And I just thought, it's just time to
Jump
grab,
straight in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have a go. I don't really get on well with batch painting, but after sort of George was sort of saying, well, you can do like the base, like the spray and the base color, and then you don't have to do all the small parts on all of them at the
As
same
long as
time.
you're using the same straight colours.
Yeah,
or,
I think
it
it
all
will
mixes
be.
if you're doing mixes. Or
Yeah,
whatever,
I
but,
don't
like,
think I'll spend as much time on each model as I would do normally for a character model.
No, fair.
It'd just be to get them. I know there's a captain in that little batch.
It's a great model, that captain.
Yeah, so I
Great
might spend more time doing him, but for the rest of them, I might just be a quick sort of tabletop
Yeah,
battle
fair.
ready
Yeah, go
type
crazy.
thing.
Yeah, if you just,
But just
get
have
a
them
team together.
done, just get a group finished.
Sergeant model.
Mm.
Hot take. Sergeant model in that unit is incredible. The reloading
Yeah.
one, he's amazing.
I
Like,
might swap out the heads for some Blood Angel heads and things like that.
if you need
as
any
well.
spares, I can hook you up.
Yeah,
Hang on, I'm doing some mental maths here.
yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Are you worried, George?
There's,
Is there,
there's-
what's bothering you?
there's
It's
I
only
believe
just-
7 miniatures
That's right.
in that kill team box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just dawned on George that very soon
I might have.
you might have the lead.
Well, I have a greater
What one?
concern, James, because if I recall, Paul has also painted a Blood Angels Lieutenant and a Blood Angels
Captain.
Captain.
I've
So
got a-
that would bring you up to 9.
Well, I've got a Dante. I've got the Martes that I'm doing, and
Oh,
I've
it's
also
getting
got
worse. It's getting worse.
I have got an Astaroth
Astrath the Grim, yeah.
the Grim at home as well, which I'll get round to painting. I'll probably after this kill team.
Paul wasn't in this race. How's he beating me?
He's literally
I'm
come
just
around the
enjoying
first
it.
bend and he's on the furlong and he's literally
Yeah.
all power to legs.
No, not
Literally.
even that. We're on the 3rd lap. Paul was at home. Yeah. He didn't even have a ticket.
It's the road run, isn't it? Beep, beep.
Yeah, I'm just sort of. I've got them sat there. I thought I refused. We've got the set, so I thought I'm not going to just let them sit there. And they're all quite detailed models, aren't they? Because they're all part of that hero
Yeah,
set.
I mean, yeah, they are. I mean, I would say the normal rank and file are no more detailed than
Yeah.
the equivalent. So like the
Yeah, the
Eliminator is the
Intercessors, isn't it?
Eliminator, the
Yeah.
Intercessor is the Intercessor. But
But I think they'd be.
They're cooler poses, though.
yeah.
I think also I think they're quite individual enough to keep my interest to
On them.
finish the
yeah,
squad.
definitely. I do agree. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, good.
I'm quite looking forward to getting to grips with those after I've done obviously Lamartis.
No,
spend a
that's
bit of
good.
time doing him.
Well, I had so much fun painting my one. So
Hmm.
if you want to ask anything about the model, I know it very intimately from
Yeah.
spending so much time looking at it.
I'm
So,
keen to do it because I want to paint the steps.
Yeah, or the marble. I just want to paint the
I
marble.
just wanna paint the marble, yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
that
so
was really fun.
yeah.
that
That's
part.
like everyone's favourite part of that model,
It's
right?
so
Yeah.
good.
I think
It's just
yeah,
so cool.
That's where all the attention is. Even the steps were in like 3 bits or 4 bits or whatever it was.
Oh, isn't it like the front
It's
lip?
yeah.
Yeah,
There's a
there's
couple
an
of bits
edge
to
and
it.
there's
Yeah,
a back rib. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's all
you've got to
sorts
put a
of
bit of tactical grass at the front of it though. So
I did notice there was a little
Yeah, there's
sort of
little
space
bits,
there.
yeah,
So
a
I
cheeky
think,
little bit.
yeah, a little bit
Tactical tuft.
tactical
little-
tuft. Yeah,
a little
exactly.
TT on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Speaking of tactical tufts,
yes. Well, I've been channeling.
I was almost going to say, is mine showing?
I've been channeling my inner wargaming Alan Titchmarsh over the last.
Wow, you don't hear that very often. The old AT, do you?
Yeah.
Is he even still on the TV on the telebox?
I don't on the telebox.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
No. So yeah, over the
rear
last
projection.
over the last year or so, Adam and myself, another Adam from Siege, been working together in secrecy, creating Siege Scenics, which was announced a couple of days ago. Siege Scenics is a premium miniature Scenics brand that Adam and myself have put together. We really wanted to produce some stuff that was like way more natural and just really had a lot of stuff that's relative to it from seasons and things like that. Super excited for it to obviously launch, which will be on the 28th of February. So that'll be the store will be going live.
Yeah.
and it's not a pre-order, right? They're just on sale.
No,
aren't
so
they?
there's no Kickstarter, no crowdfunding. Literally, like they're going to be available to purchase on the day of launch. We've got some amazing moss pads, which is one of our favourite things. You need a bit of Boxbury Forest in your life, Paul.
You do.
It's one of my favourites.
Well, by the sounds of it, I do. Yeah, sure.
It's, use one of those as a
Yeah.
tactical tuft or tactical, and it's in scale as well. That's the thing I like about it because with the moss pads as well, one of the things that we're really conscious of is obviously Marines are like 8 foot, 9 foot tall, etc.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like for certain poses and certain things like that, having tufts that are more in scale with the model kind of works. It looks like they've got like a giant plant or bush next to them with most tufts that are out there.
That's right.
A lot of the moss pads that we do have really been designed so that you can obviously use them as moss and like filler between tufts and things like that. There's loads planned that we've got with it. Like there's loads of things. There's like loads of products that obviously for launch, and then there's loads of stuff that we're going to be staggering out over the next year or so. So yeah, super excited. But yeah, I'm getting into miniature gardening. So,
Miniature gardening.
so yeah,
Nice.
Little bonsai. Little bonsai for your miniatures.
Farsight comes with a little bonsai tree, doesn't
it does.
It
Yeah,
does, yeah,
yeah,
little
it does.
cherry blossom.
It's
Yeah,
cool
thing.
little bit of that. So yeah.
Link in the description, I
Link will
suppose?
be in the description. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. Check that out.
Nice.
Should we move on? Main topic?
Yeah.
We've already kind of started on the
Let's do it.
preamble.
Let's go.
Let's do
So,
it.
Ask me for advice. Come on.
so one of the most important parts of miniature painting, which we've spoken about on previous episodes, but I felt it needed readdressing, is of course preparation, building and cleaning of miniatures. And I think this dovetails tremendously into painting, and it's overlooked a lot because I think for some people, building is not as enjoyable and it's kind of a means to an end. And even for people who do enjoy it, I feel that certain people could be more thorough in their building and cleaning. And I thought we'd be cool.
Not pointing his fingers at me there.
Of course not. But I thought it'd be cool to share some like tips and tricks for making your miniatures actually look better overall by spending more time on the prep, and what are some things that you can look for and do to make your paint job better by spending more time before the painting.
So
Does that make sense?
if I do a better job at building stuff, it makes my painting better?
It literally does.
Does it?
It literally does.
Hmm.
If you give 2 canvases to a painter, as in like a real sort of like painter,
Artiste.
like artiste, they're going to choose the one that's pristine, not the one that's been thrown down the stairs. So
Yeah, but
like,
their painting ability is still the same on either canvas.
But
surely.
if you're painting something that doesn't need texture and the canvas has got loads of texture on it, or there's a rip, or there's like a fold in the canvas, or a little mark or something, it's going to detract from the painting surely. So building and clean on the model, that's the way I've always looked at it. Is like it's the better canvas that you have to put the paint job on, the overall paint job is better because of it. So that's the way I've always thought about it.
I think it would be like, oh, nice paint job. Shame his barrels aren't drilled.
Barrel drilling shame.
Yeah. That sort of thing.
Yeah. No, I agree. But yeah, I think building and clean. I mean, I look, recently I had it, as I would like, it's like it stumped me. Like the building and clean drove me nuts. Normally, I always love building and clean because it's something that I find that, especially when you're posing the model or making it, kind of you build the persona or the character of that miniature when you're doing that sort of like posing of it or creation of it. And I've always loved building and cleaning, but again, as I said, like recently I was tested quite massively.
I'm starting to enjoy it more now.
Is it the thing you hate the most, or is it the thing you don't like the most, would you say?
It's the thing that stops me from putting my paintbrush onto it. Because I've got to obviously build it and sand it and whatever and all the rest of it before I can start doing it. So that was always the bit, like unwrapping the chocolate bar before I can shove it into my gob. You know, that was always the barrier. So
What is it about it that you don't enjoy? Is it just like the actual act of doing it is tedious, or is it because you're just too excited to get painting?
Partly that, you know, the excitement of having the model, you can see the box art in front of you. I want to do that. But also, I just wasn't very good at it. So I'd spend quite a long time sanding and doing all sorts of bits to make sure I thought it was perfect. And then as soon as I put the spray or the undercoat on, I can see lines and I've missed that bit. And then I can't be bothered to then sand it off. And
I think that's the best opportunity. Like if you've built and cleaned it as best as you can, when you put that lovely first smooth coat of undercoat on it, if there are any imperfections, I find that helps me, and it's just like, oh cool, I've just noticed that, or there's that there that I need to smooth, or there's a little bit here, or whatever. I think that's it's like a safety step before you put on other paint onto it. You can go, oh cool, I've just noticed that, I'll just do that now. Little quick rebrush, airbrush, or obviously rattle can or whatever on that bit, just to make sure it's fine. I like that step because it allows me to. I tend to always build it, clean it to the best I can. If I can't see anything on it, then I'll undercoat it. And before I even go and put another coat of paint on it, I'll go back under the light and go, oh, cool, let's just check that and see if that's anything there. I find that step helps me quite a bit. But
I wouldn't even bother to sand like mold lines, or just run a blade over it a couple of times. I think that's good enough. Yeah. Or if I did try and sand something, I'd use the wrong grit, like a 2 grit, and then just rub half the model's gone.
The model's
that gets rid of all the edges. that's that mold line gone, and the leg. I just think that's fine. That'll do, and then just get on with it. So I was never.
Paul's cleaning mold lines with a cheese grater.
Back. JCB coming through the window, the arm claws at the model.
Well, funny enough, that's what happens when you drill your barrels.
No, slightly excessive there. Yeah.
But then you have to. I need to get the green stuff out now and fill that cavernous gap that I've just sanded off his thigh. you know,
Re-sculpt the leg.
So I always just think, I'll just do a quick sort of scrape stuff off or just nip things off and then just get on with it. So
Yeah, no fair.
But I think I am getting into it a bit more now. Now I'm sort of.
I find it really cathartic though. Like I find doing the cleaning really cathartic because it's like it's a really simple linear task. Which I said that and then had the his spider web to deal with. But the nightmares have finally stopped, by the way. But definitely
got arachnophobia.
Arachnophobia.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But I generally find building and cleaning, specifically the actual cleaning once it's together, really cathartic because focusing on that singular task and just literally making sure that it's smooth and clean, all that. It's kind of like the lull before the storm of painting. That's the best. That's the best way for me to explain it. And I've always enjoyed it. So, but I get what you mean about it. And when you get a model that's really difficult or the pose is quite confined, cleaning up it can be difficult. That's where you have to clean parts individually, and then you put it together and you're like, I missed a bit there or that bit.
Yeah,
I didn't need to worry about that bit, etc. Yeah. So,
in all fairness, I've learned a lot. Obviously, working here from and sort of seeing you guys do things, and I've obviously learned a lot more. And learn to be a bit more, patient with things and do things in a bit of a
regimented.
Sort of in a regimented fashion. One step at a time, sort of thing.
Yeah,
it has made a difference because when I had my first set of those Death Guard Heroes series, and the push things, pushed them together. And obviously the arms stick out about 3 mils because obviously when you push in the pin, when you push the pin in, it traps air in there.
Yeah.
And no matter how hard you press, you can't push the pin past that little, literally a piston of air in there.
Yeah, yeah.
So now all the pins just come off of everything now. So that the kill team that did last night, just cut all the pins off. I understand why they do it.
Oh, it's just so people can get it and put it on the table.
Yeah,
just
whack
makes
it on.
Perfect sense.
But then everything's 1 millimeter apart.
That was a huge light bulb moment for me when.
Why did they not make the pins a little bit shorter?
I'm not sure. It might be so they can be cut quite cleanly off the sprue potentially. I don't know, but the cutting the pins off was a huge thing. I think the first time I actually got around to doing it properly was with it was either the Indomitus or it might have been the one before. Was the one before Indomitus?
Dark Imperium.
Dark Imperium. Was that Dark Imperium? Did that have pins on it? It did, didn't it? Or
that was push fit as well.
Yeah, I think Dark Imperium was the first time I cut them off.
I've got a few of the models from that. Yeah,
I was actually why the hell have I never cut them off before?
Yeah,
I funny enough, I used to cut them shorter. I actually used to cut them slightly shorter, and then I don't know. I think there's someone in the office, or I might have seen something online, and I was like, "Why have I never thought of that?"
Yeah,
it's like a light bulb. It's like,
I don't know. It's just one of those things. Why did that? Yeah, it's like you're trying to force these things in, and they obviously won't go.
Yeah, yeah.
I would imagine that they're probably sized the way they are because you can shave more off, but you can't add more on. So if they made them too short or too small and they were loose, that's obviously a problem for people that aren't planning on gluing the models.
Yeah, I suppose.
Whereas all you need is a pair of clippers, and you could just shorten them down a little bit because you've got to use the clippers to get them off the sprue anyway.
Yeah.
So if you're GW manufacturing these models, you're already assuming that someone's got the clippers, right? So I guess in that sense, them being slightly oversized makes sense. But
they're not quite like normal models on other sprues either because they're not actually joined to the sprue very strongly.
Oh, they're the pop out ones.
You can just sort of pop them off.
Yeah.
They're not like.
It reminds me of when you get a sheet of the tokens.
And you sort of punch them out. Yeah. You don't really need clippers for them.
It's good though because the thing is they are specifically designed for newer people to get that.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that you kind of damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you don't have the things on there, it makes it factually more difficult for people. That's when you get arms sliding off of bodies or head stuck to a shoulder or something like that. So, which I understand completely, but I suppose just lopping the pins off. It's the best of both worlds. You can. New people getting into it can go, oh wow, look, I've made this model, and then if you a bit more experience, you go, I'll just cut that off, and I think it works best way. But cutting the pins off is great.
Do you want to learn how to become a better miniature painter, improve your skills, and have the best looking army on the tabletop? Well, now you can with the Siege Studios Patreon. You'll gain instant access to our catalogue of over 350 easy to follow step-by-step tutorials covering a huge variety of colour schemes, painting styles, and techniques, with everything from beginner-focused foundation tutorials to full character masterclasses. Plus, with the team adding new lessons every single week, you'll never run out of techniques to learn or skills to improve. And if that's not enough, you also get access to our critique clinic, where you can get video feedback from us on your miniatures with advice on how to progress your painting, so you'll always know what to work on next and see improvements as fast as possible. So if you're ready to take the next steps in miniature painting, head to patreon.com/Siege Studios or check the link in this episode's description. Can we extrapolate a little bit on the sort of cleaning side? Because I think to a lot of people, building and cleaning, the building part is intuitive, that makes sense. And I think cleaning is usually just lumped in as the phrase for getting rid of the mold lines.
Yeah.
But to me personally, cleaning means a lot more steps than just that.
Yeah.
So do you want to maybe walk us through like your process of, in like a perfect world, you've got all the time you need. How would you go about building and cleaning a miniature from start to finish? What are the steps that you do? What are the tools that you would use?
Firstly, he gets all his power tools out.
Yeah, I get the digger out. Yeah, no.
Books the appointment for the JCB to turn up and to close the street outside.
Get the angle grinder. No, I first thing I'll do is cut the parts out. Now I think like me and George are a bit different on this. I think you cut it you cut it far from the sprue and then take the extra bit off with a knife.
I like to use dull clippers. Not intentionally dull. I joked about that in the previous episode.
What, boring clippers?
Yeah.
George gets a spoon out the cutlery drawer. That'll get it off.
I'll get my clippers and I'll cut reasonably. I like to get clippers and cut reasonably far away from the part. I'm going to say reasonably far. I mean like 5-ish millimeters away, and then go in with a
knife,
razor sharp, fresh scalpel blade, and just clean it up. But we'll go for yours first.
Yeah, I mean, I use a set of clippers. They're like the Japanese ones I always go on about, but I use those and I cut it off as close as possible to the part and I always make sure that with the clippers the cutting part is flat to the part.
Yeah.
Sometimes a lot of issues can be when you're not putting the clippers actually level to the part and they're slightly off angled or whatever. That's when you get weird little extra bits of spur and stuff like that stick to the model. Again, there's multiple horses with different courses here. Like I personally cut it as close as I can, leave a tiny bit of something on there, and then like yours, I go in really with a sharp blade and cut that bit smooth as possible. Then I'll get out the sanding foam or an emery board, depending on if it's a tank and it's like got a massive flat panel and there's like a bit. I'll get an emery board that's factually more coarse that will just get rid of it, and then I'll do a final polish with a smoother bit of sanding foam afterwards. If it's a delicate miniature, then like the sanding foam comes out 600, 800 or 1,000 grit or something like that. Yeah. I'll just give it a buff. You can also, and I think it's something that you do as well, I think you can wet the sanding foam as well. And it's almost like wet and dry, like you literally wet sand it as well, which gives it a really good finish. Obviously, a sharp Stanley blade or a sharp blade can work for taking mold lines off. You can use a blunt one as well.
A Stanley blade, they're massive.
I use a Stanley knife. Yeah, I use a Stanley knife. Yeah, I know you're a big favourite of a scalpel. I use
savage.
I use a scalpel as well.
Like a box cutter.
Like a box cutter. It purely comes from using one for so long and being used to using one for so long. And I'm going to say this. Yeah, I have changed recently to using sharp scalpel blades. Just so you're aware.
It's gone pro.
Yeah, I've gone pro. Yeah, yeah. No, but I have started using them more often because there is a lot more control I find obviously with the pressure management and muscle memory of using a box cutter. When you then start using a scalpel, it's like way more refined. I found, and that is those Stanley blades are great for getting off more stubborn things as well. Definitely. I wouldn't discredit it. I still think it's a great tool for maybe more difficult things to remove or bigger bits of spur and stuff.
Do you find they're not as sharp though as a?
A brand new Stanley is super sharp. Like I mean,
for all of 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, do you know the one thing that frustrates me with the scalpel blades? The ends snap so easily.
Right.
They snap.
We're going to go into this.
They snap so easily.
Here's why your ends snap so easily.
They snap like so easily.
You are not using the proper Swan Morton handle for your blades.
No, I'm not. I'm using.
They have a like tang down the middle. That hollow part in the middle. There's a pin that sits in that whole part, and it supports the blade for the full length.
Ah, right, okay. Well, I'll have to get one of those handles then, because I use a different handle. I've got one that
because it just grabs it at the bottom, so it's flimsy. Yeah, it's just wobbling about.
Si from CS has got these amazing, like the hand. It's so comfortable the handles that Si sent me, and I really got used to them, and I like them. So again, I'll try one of the other ones definitely. But yeah, so I'll go in with a sharp scalpel and just remove any sort of little bits and bobs. Then I'll obviously do all the sanding as I mentioned. And really the other thing to talk about is obviously just gap filling, which is something else that unfortunately some models just require, So
especially after I've been sanding.
Yeah, what about me with the JCB? But yeah, so I'll use like either milliput or I'll do 50-50 milli putt and green stuff, or I'll use straight green stuff, depending on the size of the gap or what I actually want to do to it after the fact. So, for example, if you put milli putt in there, you can then go back and sand it afterwards. You can wet sand it again afterwards. If you want something that's got a bit more elasticity, the 50-50 milli putt and green stuff works really well. If you want something that's obviously really firm and sets rock hard, that's not ceramic, the green stuff is good. So there's a couple of different putties and stuff that you can use for different after it's set finishing effects if you want as well. But that's my general process, and then the rattle can will go on. I'll check it, see if everything's okay, and if anything's a problem, I'll rinse and repeat until you're happy with it. Yeah.
I always found that it's difficult to sand green stuff, so maybe I'll get some of the.
Yeah.
You can't really sand it.
It's kind of like rubber, isn't
it's
it?
Rubber,
Yeah,
it's like plastic. You can't. Yeah, it's not like plastic, but it's more like rubber, like you said. Yeah. So
I'll try and get some of the milli putt then.
So yeah,
maybe that'll help.
I have some differing points, to say the least.
Oh.
First and foremost, I don't gap fill, but we'll get to that.
You don't gap fill?
We'll get to that.
You don't have gaps.
I know what he uses.
I don't have gaps.
I know what he uses. It's fine.
First of all, I will clip the parts, as I said, about 5 or so mil off the sprue. Plenty of room.
Yeah.
I'm going in with a fresh Swan Morton scalpel blade, cleaning it up.
So romantic.
Also, not going all the way to the part. Then comes out the Tamiya sanding foam, 600 grit would be my grit of choice. At this stage,
Lord.
polishing that
it
up.
takes you forever to paint anything.
Polishing that up, getting the level down nice and smooth. I will say at this point, never use a needle file for anything on a Warhammer model ever. They are so coarse, they will rip the model to shreds. They'll leave massive gouges in it. Get rid of them. Stop using them. They're useless. I will die on this hill. They are useless.
No one is arguing with you here.
Yeah.
There'll be someone in the comments saying, "Oh, well, actually, for this part on a tank, no, you don't need them." I'll come up with the sanding foam, get it nice and flat. Then I'll go up to 1,000 grit, something like that. Get it nice and smooth. Wet sanding, if required. Often on a cape, might be required. Also, very, very important part. Mold lines, scrape and sand, as James said, because it's not, once you scrape, you might get a little bit of a flat spot. Even if you can't see it, once you prime it, you might see a little bit of it. And anywhere that is like a crevice or a sharp recess where there's a mold line sort of gone into, but you can't necessarily get a blade in there, that's when I'll use the Tamiya extra thin cement, and I'll basically take the sort of applicator brush out, wipe it on the side of the pot until there's basically literally nothing on
dry brush
the brush.
The glue.
And I'm dry brushing with the glue because you just need a tiny hint of that glue in there, and it would just melt. And it's extra thin cement is not strictly a glue. It's just sort of something that dissolves plastic, and the extra thin flows really nicely. So don't think of it like caking Citadel glue on your model to try and get rid of mold lines. It's not like that. It's completely different in the way it behaves. And then also, James kind of spoke about it a little bit earlier on, but once you've primed the model, that's a really great time to go back in and have a look for anything you might have missed, because especially when the model's grey and plastic, you can't always tell if something you've cleaned is going to show up or isn't. And also, once everything's one flat colour, it's easier to spot things that were hiding from you, somewhat invisible. So that's a good time to go back in and scrape those parts up, and then if required, spray back over them. But usually not. I find, to be honest, once, as long as primer's on the main areas of the models that are going to get touched, it's kind of fine to paint over. As long as you've not removed a really, really thick amount of paint and there's a bevel, I think you're kind of fine, to be honest.
And after you're completely happy with that, do you then take them out to dinner, or is that the end of the process? You just get on with painting.
Valentine's Day is coming up, Paul.
So the gap filling thing, I find that it's best. The best gap to fill is a gap that doesn't exist. All right. Most Warhammer kits, they're
Confucius say the best gap to fill is one that does not exist.
Come on, let's hear it.
They're digitally designed models. They're designed to fit perfectly together. If they're not going perfectly together, there has been some user error
and then they're made
on
mechanically.
The way. Yes. So test fit, test fit, test fit.
Yeah.
Scrape, test fit, sand, test fit. Make sure the fit is as good as it's going to get.
Yep.
You will sometimes have a seam, which I consider different to a gap. It's just where the parts are touching, but the surface level isn't quite flush. Fair play. All right. I will revert you to a previous hobby hack from episode something where I said I will collect the little shavings from drilling out barrels and other
Line
such
nose.
areas.
Yeah. I know what you
So
said.
you end up with like a little sort of like burr, like squiggly bit of plastic.
Yeah, little coil.
Keep those around, all right? Because I will then spot weld with the Tamiya extra thin into the gap. Those 2 points are making contact and they're touching the little bit of plastic and the tip of the glue applicator onto the seam, all right? And then all of the capillary action of the glue is going to flow into the seam and it's going to melt and wick away all of the plastic. It's going to fill it out nicely. And it's going to leave a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of surface proud once it's dried. Going with the sanding foam, bosh.
So
Wow.
he has a go at me for using Barry the Bosch on drilling barrels, and he's welding a miniature.
welding out.
He's welding
Yeah.
a plastic miniature slinky to his model.
That's
basically.
true. Yeah, little micro slinkies. Yeah. No, I mean, it seems like a lot of effort, especially if you've got a whole army to paint, which you seem to be losing on that
Now you
front.
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand.
Shots fired there from Paul.
No,
Sorry.
I totally get it. If you that seems like a level for competition.
I
That
said
is
in a
like-
perfect world,
Yeah,
With all the
yeah,
time.
I suppose. Yeah,
you can take some shortcuts, but I think ultimately
like
you'll
no
save
welding. Not really welding.
You're saving a lot of, well, one, it depends on the kit because like
True,
Primaris
yeah.
Space Marines, you don't need to do any of this
Yeah.
for the most part because they go together like,
Only if
fairly
it's got
simply.
a cape, probably, or something.
Yeah,
like that,
sure.
yeah.
But also, the more you do it, the quicker you get. It doesn't take us, it just becomes part of the process.
Yeah.
And it's time you're winning back from painting because if, like James said, you've got the perfect canvas, you're not having to fight yourself later on.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
the word, how annoying is it when you're like 3/4 of the way through a paint job and you spot like a mold line or something, then you go back and scrape it off and then you mess the paint up and then you've got to go back in and there's a little spot and a mark and you can tell it was there.
Yeah.
Like that happens all the time.
I just go, oh no, and then I just carry on. Carry on. Want to take a picture of that bit? Fine.
Yeah, but I've also had scenarios where like I've primed the model and I've just started painting over it and there's like texture and surface from like some glue squeezed out or
Yeah,
something.
no, I get that,
Like there's
yeah.
building problems that arise later on and they're impacting the overall look of your paint job. I mean, we have the Serious Critique Clinic and one of the most common things we see from people is stuff like mold lines and barrels not being drilled, which is, yes, not related to the painting, but it's like, it just sticks out straight
It
away.
does.
when you're
It
looking at
does.
the picture.
It does massively detract from the model because, like, the thing is like
It breaks the immersion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm going to say this whole barrel issue is personal preference. Whether
Yeah, of course. I'm not
The
like
person
I'm not
doing
refu-
it wants to do
the,
it.
the way that I would
I
explain
mean, all of
it
this is personal
it is,
preference.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
true.
The way I would explain it is this: like, ultimately, you're painting the models to. Like, I always say, the job of a painter is to trick the eye of the reader to make them see a plastic miniature as something else: metal, armor, wood, all these things. So you're trying to visually deceive the viewer into thinking the model is something that it's not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're investing all this time into the painting of the miniature and doing all the things on there to make
Yeah.
it look real, like armor, metal, lights, lenses, all these energy on swords, all this kind of stuff. Drilling out the barrel takes seconds and it adds so much value to it's a real gun, not a Tonka toy from Toys R Us. Whether you choose to drill it or whether you choose to paint a black dot on it, that's still good. I'm not disputing that at all whatsoever. But
I
it's-
will argue that most people who aren't drilling barrels are also not putting black dots on them
exactly,
as well.
yeah, that's my
Oh,
point. Like,
yeah.
like if you're going to spend
too
that
far.
much time and effort into actually painting the model to make it look realistic or add some intrinsic value to what it looks like, doing that is a tiny little thing compared to all the physical painting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why I go on about it so much,
Yeah.
because you are trying to trick the eye. That's what you're trying to do. So that's why I go on about barrel drilling so much.
Regardless of what you've done, like the paint job could be absolutely incredible. If you spot a mold line or something on there, it
Takes
kills
you
that
out.
immersion
Yeah, it does,
immediately.
it does.
And it
You'll-
reminds
you'll
you,
focus-
oh yeah, that's a toy that someone painted.
You'll focus on the issue, the mistake or the error or the issue, rather than, oh look, that rust looks amazing. It looks like rust. You know what I mean? Like,
And also it can hinder the paint job as well, because this is one of the things I did want to get onto. Things like mold lines collect issues. And when I say that, I mean, say you're applying a wash
Yeah.
over something.
Yeah.
That mold line is something that wash wants to grip onto.
it's a barrier.
And it makes it stand out even more than it otherwise would
Yeah.
have. So if that was on a flat area that was just getting painted one solid color, you hold it at the right angle, you might not spot it, it might blend in. You add a wash or something over that, all of a sudden it's a shaded line.
Yeah.
You do some dry brushing over the top, the mold line catches
That as well.
That
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you've got all these extra lines and panels and stuff that are being like accentuated rather than hidden. And it's making your life more difficult as a painter, especially as a beginner.
Yeah.
Because you've now got all of these obstacles to avoid during the painting process. that you could have just gotten rid of to start with.
Plus, as well, if you post that on social media and ask for critique, everyone will just say, well, you need to prep your model better.
I mean,
So
look,
that'd be an
ultimately, you
advertisement.
can do whatever the hell you want to your models like that. But the thing is,
And you might have different standards as well. If you're doing like a huge army,
Yeah.
hundreds of models, and
might
you're
not
only
be
going to
so
look at them
worried
on the
about it.
table,
Yeah.
you might not care. And that's perfectly fair enough as well. But I'm talking purely in the sense of if you want to improve your painting, make your models look better.
definitely.
It's so important.
I think like the thing is like ultimately, if you put it on socials, if you put it online and people do comment that, obviously you can just go, yeah, I don't care. And that's fine. That's all right. That's fine. It's okay. But I would argue that you're putting stuff online because you're proud of what you've painted and you're proud of what you've actually done with the miniature. And obviously people commenting on it and going, oh yeah, I love the way you've done the cape, or I love the way you've done. You're putting it online because you want to document what you've done. Would you not want to document it to the best of your ability and so that it does what you want it to? Does that make sense? And that's the reason why I say like the little things like mold line removal and drilling barrels and stuff, it's such a minimal investment of time and effort compared to the physical painting, but it adds so much intrinsic value to the model. Does that make sense? And that's the way I think about it personally. But
No, I am. Like I said before, I am starting to enjoy it more and get more into that side of things on that sort of basis now, because I want my paint job to be as good as I can get it.
yeah,
Without having to, what like it was like a year and a half ago. I think, oh no, there's a mold line there. Like you said, putting a wash on stuff and then it catches on that, and you think, I've got to try and disguise that now because I'm not going to rub that mold line off now I've painted it. So
And it's really hard once you've added the wash because you can't really paint over a surface that's been washed because it's not the same time, is it?
So I am enjoying it more, but the way that I sort of enjoy it more and get more involved in that and want to spend the time doing it is if I've got some other distraction. Because it's not like obviously we're painting, I feel like you're absolutely concentrating. It's a bit more of a
you see it more as a chore, maybe.
as like, well, yeah, and it's a bit more of a casual thing to be. For me, it's a bit more of it's a casual thing to be doing rather like
Than
an
the painting,
intense thing to be doing.
I'd argue that cleanup can be as cathartic as painting.
Yeah.
Like getting a surface perfectly smooth,
Yeah.
or getting something like clean so that you know that you're going to be able to paint it even better. I think if you find it a chore and find it boring, I think that flipping it mindset wise and going, this makes the painting better for me, and this makes the painting of the miniature overall better once it's done. I think that will hopefully shift the thought process to be like, cool, well, I know this is important because of this. It's like anything. You build a house with crap foundations, the house won't be standing for very long. Now, obviously, a miniature's not going to crumble into ash. Of course, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But that same way of the house crumbling into ash is the same as someone going,
Yeah.
oh, there's a mold line there. Or you've not done that. Or you've taken a chunk out the leg when you cleaned it with a JCB.
It's like adding the but to an end of a compliment.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it looks really
great,
great, but
Yeah. No, I generally find if I've got something on TV that's like, some sort. I generally find if I'm watching a comedy show, I enjoy the whole process obviously better because I'm having a laugh at the same time. So I'm trying to get my mind to sort of train that clearly my models, I get a treat by watching some comedy, which makes me laugh, which makes me sort of
that's a really
enjoy
cool way of doing
I've
it.
never thought of it that way. That's really
that's
clever.
really
I'm
clever.
trying.
That's
I'm trying
really
to train myself like I would train a dog. You do a nice thing,
Right,
you get a treat.
I'm going to train my dogs to clean my models. That's it. Done.
So yeah,
I know
do
a lot of
that.
people watch TV shows and stuff. I've always thought that was like a distraction. I've never thought of that as a like tricking your brain into
A reward.
I find that
It's
I-
really good, clever,
I-
actually. Yeah.
I'm one of these people that I always need background noise
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
concentrate,
Yeah.
which is kind of a weird thing because some people think, well, I need as much silence.
No, I
as
get it
possible.
totally. I'm the same.
But that is something that has always been with me, really.
yeah, no, I
I think everyone
why
has their own thing. I mean, when I was studying music, we done some like experiments with things that make you more productive and like certain types of music. And it's not actually this. There's not really as many universal principles as you would think. Everyone's
Yeah.
kind of got like their thing that
Their
makes
thing.
them like lock in. So for me, it's really, really heavy, intense metal music. And like the more intense, the more I
The
can
more
focus.
insane it is.
And the more casual and soft and relaxed something is, the more frustrated and angry I get. It's
See,
like completely the wrong way
I'm
around.
totally the opposite because I listen to like film scores, I listen to like ambient epic music or tracks and things like that with no vocals because I find if there's like vocals or like singing or even instruments specifically as well, because obviously of being in bands and stuff, if I listen to metal or guitar music or stuff like that, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, drumming, I'm like, well, I know that he's doing this, like he's blast beating or he's doing this or he's doing, or whatever the case may be. And my attention goes up onto music. So I always have like Hans Zimmer stuff on, or like there's a guy I always listen to called Adam Dodson who's got like amazing ambient music and stuff like that. Like that's what I have for like clean up and stuff like that. But then I'm different when it comes to the painting. When I'm painting, I love to listen to audiobooks and stuff like that. So
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just find it.
Yeah.
I find that when I'm painting, having the ambient music on I'm then bored because it's like. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I'm always continually fascinated by this stuff because whoever I speak to and I tell people that, they have a completely different answer.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. But I would say if you're listening at home, experiment with different types of music while you're doing tasks that you both enjoy,
100%.
don't enjoy, and things you struggle with, and experiment with genres and stuff and see how it impacts you.
That's the thing. Like, when I'm at home, like I don't sound silly, but Reese says it all the time. It's like why have you got music on when you're washing up, or why have you got this on when you're doing this? I'm like, yeah, because it's nice to have something else on so that you focus obviously on the task you're doing, but you've also got this other thing that's like
something else. There's another input
spurring you along. Going,
Yeah.
oh, cool, yeah. I find it makes time pass quicker because your visual attention is on the task that you're doing, but your audio attention your audio attention has got something to focus on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's the way. That's the reason why I always do it.
Deafening silence.
I always
I was
have
watching. What was I watching last night when I was putting the kill team together? I was watching, Greg Davis.
Yep.
He did a series called Man Down a
Not
few
heard
years
of it,
ago.
no.
About 3 or 4 seasons of that. It's like the most mental, random comedy ever. It's only like half an hour shows, but they're all on Netflix and whatever. And I just sit there and I have those on, and it's just crazy stuff. And it's had Rick Mail in them as well when he was still around.
Legend.
So you can kind of guess the level of maturity of those
Yeah.
kind of things. But so I find that really helps because I find sort of ridiculous comedy like sort of I don't know, it just makes me forget about what I'm doing.
I do think it's a split between visual and audio attention.
Yeah.
Because I find that's why I love doing painting days or even just like painting or hobby days with friends over whatever. Because the thing is like you can all be sitting there talking about work, life, all these different things. Your audio attention is in the conversation, but your visual attention is on the task you're doing. And I find that I get loads done, both like building, cleaning, painting. All that stuff. I get loads done when I have that kind of setting because I'm distracted by having the conversations, but I'm not looking at the people. And then I'm working on this thing and like having the conversations. I'm just in like autopilot doing the actual thing. Does that make sense?
I'm completely the opposite of that. I'm so unproductive when I'm trying to keep a conversation going and doing a hobby at the same time.
So interesting.
The hobby hangouts, don't get me wrong, I really, really enjoy, and I love sitting and chatting to people while I'm doing it in a fun factor.
Yeah.
But in terms of productivity, no. Like I get barely anything done. I can't keep a conversation
That's really
going.
interesting. No, that just shows how people are so different.
But I can do an audiobook. Audiobooks I'm fine with.
But
I can listen.
Yeah, but that's because you're not engaging with it as well. That's the thing.
I suppose as well, that's because people aren't talking to you, asking you questions that you then got to divert some of your brain power to think about of an answer.
100%. Yeah.
If you're a fan of the podcast and want to support the show, why not check out our collection of merch at the Siege Studios shop? Our custom designs are available in everything from fitted t-shirts to hats and jumpers, which are great for keeping you warm in those cold winter hobby sessions. Everything is made from soft, high-quality organic cotton with prints that are made to last. I've been wearing mine around the studio for over a year now because I love how it fits and feels, and it's still as fresh as the day I got it. Plus, everything is in stock and shipped to you directly from us. None of that print-to-order nonsense. And just for you podcast listeners, you can get 10% off of your merch order and a free sticker pack by using the code POD10 at checkout. So to order yours now, head to the link in this episode's description or go to siegestudios.co.uk/shop.
On the topic at hand, I think like building and cleaning and like model prep, we all get super excited about that dopamine hit of starting like the miniature and painting it and getting obviously paint on and like being creative and doing this stuff. But I would also say that like the building and cleaning is just as creative because there's loads of things you can do. I mean, we're just purely talking about building and cleaning. Like I think this again, I do think it's a bit of a dying art because of the way that a lot of the newer kits are and things like that. But converting also falls into building and cleaning. It's just as important because like you've mentioned obviously about like welding with a slinky of plastic, obviously the model and all that kind of stuff.
Great tools.
Exact quote from George.
Yeah.
I welded a slinky onto a model out of plastic. But converting also allows you to hide things. So like, let's just say hypothetically, like you do slip with the Stanley blade or the scalpel and you take a chunk out the leg or something like that. Adding something onto the model there to cover that and hide it is just as important. And I'd say as factually visual and interesting on the model. Like if you put a purity seal on the model, or if you take a chunk out of like a thigh armor panel and you put like a bit of like you sculpt on a bit of trim onto it, or you put another you cut off that armor panel and put a different armor panel. It still gives you a really great canvas to work on, but it also gives you a canvas that's really interesting as well. Then you can completely change that. So I do think that converting should be lumped into that, because it's just as important, in my opinion, as everything else that we talked about with model prep and cleanup.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, that's what purity seals are for, just to hide in. So if you see one of our models has got like 50 purity seals on, it's not been a good cleanup day, is it? But yeah, so tools we like. Have you got any? We know what you like.
Can I go into one? So we've spoken about the sanding foam a little bit.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's good stuff.
I think one of the things that's really, really great for the sanding foam is obviously what we spoke about, getting rid of the mold lines. And if you don't know, like the sanding foam is nice because it curves and contours to the surface you're sanding, so you can sand down a fairly complex shape without having to worry about getting flat spots. Because like I said, a really common thing is people shave down mold lines and they'll go a bit too hard with it and you end up with a flat spot.
Especially on legs or thighs.
But also one of the reasons I spoke about earlier, the reason I like to clip quite far away from the model is to avoid the flat spots. So a classic example of this is the backpack of a Space Marine, where it's got the two sprue connections in the sort of top of the exhausts.
That's right.
And if you clip quite far to them, you end up with this like dimple on what is supposed to be a convexed shape. And you've got this like big divot and dimple in it that you can't really do a lot about once it's there.
If you leave a bit, you can then carefully cut it so it follows the curve of the shape.
And once you get in with the sanding foam, it's curving nicely around that surface, and it's just going to leave everything nice and flush.
Those shapes, like specifically like the exhausts on the power packs and Marines, like it's a common thing where people will cut too close to it and not leave a bit to take off with a blade and sand it. But those they're super quick and easy to sand. I've got a load of emery boards that are slightly. That's one of the perfect things that I use it for, the emery board, because you need a bit of rigidity in the actual thing that you're using to sand to help obviously just buff the model as you're working it. Sanding foam, the Tamiya one is quite soft and malleable, so you can move it and position it quite a lot. There's another one I've forgotten the brand.
Display.
The Display ones are slightly firmer, and I use both of them. I use the Display ones and I use the Tamiya sanding foam. But I love an emery board that's worn a fair bit. So it's still got a little bit of grit on it.
Yeah.
But it's great for using the emery board so you can change the angle of it while you're sanding at the same time. The one thing I find with like sanding foams is that you have to really work in the same direction while you're using it, because it will bend or curve.
I think that depends how much is sticking out though, because that's why I said I like to go in first with a really, really nice sharp scalpel blade and remove as much material as possible. Because if you've got a really big, spiky, jagged like sprue joint left over and you're trying to sand over that with sanding foam, it's going to rip the sanding foam to
which is why the emery board is amazing, because you can literally get rid of it and then you go in with the sanding foam and just give it the final polish, which works really well.
I will say though, like anything flat, I would try and avoid as much as humanly possible. Like the worst thing you can do when cleaning your models is to get a backpack or something like that, cut it off really close to the sprue, and then get either an emery board or, God forbid, one of those needle files and try and like round it over because the grit is way too high. So it's just going to leave a load of chunks and texture in it. And also it's just going to be a rounded flat spot rather than an actual nice smooth curve. And it sticks out so much, especially when it's in a visible area like that. And when the model's finished painting.
100%.
You know?
Yeah. No, I agree completely. Yeah, but I think for me, core tools are a sharp blade, whichever you prefer, and sanding foam, the Japanese clippers, and then like whatever putties and stuff, just to fill stuff. I don't really use. Maybe I should really use. I know you're going about it all the time, George. I should try the extra thin a bit more. I think it'd be quite good. Get out a plastic stinky thing and just
that is one of the biggest game changer products I've ever used in Warhammer painting. Was the Tamiya extra thin. It's completely changed how I put models together. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to give it a bosh.
Because it's so functional as well, because you can use it for the sort of seam filling.
Yeah.
You can also use it in simple things, like say you've drilled out a barrel, you end up with a tiny little burr in there that you try to go in with the scalpel blade and try and get off or sand it off or whatever. You can just touch the extra thin brush in there. It vanishes, it completely disappears. It's nice and smoothed out. It's also great for an odd example, but like say you've got like a really sharp angle or like a pit in something, you've been sanding over it and you get that kind of like plastic dust that collects in there. You try and blast it out or like blow it out and clean it out somehow, but there's always going to be like a tiny little bit of dust in there. And once you're primed over it, that's locked in there forever, right? Going over it with the Tamiya extra thin, completely gets rid of that as well. So
Yeah.
one of the things I'll do at the end of like building, like say a Space Marine, is just go around all of the little. I'll give it like a brush with the makeup brush to try and get rid of any like dust that's on it. But then afterwards, I'll just go in, and if I see any tiny little microscopic little bits of dust that have collected somewhere in a recess, especially, or majoritively in the recesses, I'll just go over it with the Tamiya extra thin, and it will completely get rid of it. Cables, you know, when they've got like the spindly cables and stuff that's coming off
All the
them.
ribbed pipes.
Yeah, ribbed pipes, or even Space Marines often have a mold line going through the armor ribbing on like an elbow or something like that.
Yeah,
You can't scrape that
No.
with a
It's a
flat
pain.
knife. You
I've
can be as
tried,
careful
yeah.
as you can,
Yeah.
but you're still going to have a tiny bit of a flat spot. Tamiya extra thin gets rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll definitely give it a go. I bought some, so I have been using it.
Yeah, don't be afraid to use it, because like you go, it's glue, it's going to ruin my model, and it will. But if you remove, if
you give it a bath,
Yeah.
it will. Yeah.
I think
100%.
if you use it really, really cautiously, and you see and you prove to yourself, okay, it's not going to completely destroy my model, then you start to get the confidence
Yeah,
to learn
100%.
how much
Yeah.
to use.
Yeah.
Stick some random bits of sprue together. Use.
I don't think you even need to do that.
No,
Like,
probably
as long as you're
practice.
brushing, as long as you're getting rid of all of the excess on the brush, and you go in there, you'll probably find that you didn't have enough on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
once you've used it like a couple of times on an inconspicuous area, and you've got a feel for it, and you go, okay,
Yeah.
it's not going to turn my
Less
model
is more with it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking of tools and things, I've got a little bag
Yeah.
that I brought in that you've been.
Yeah. I
wondering
wonder
about.
what the bag was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got some of the things that I like to use. Although some of these things I may have not got the memo and not obviously not doing things right, because we're talking about things like
For the audio listeners, Paul has a plastic bag full of
Yeah.
stuff.
well, it's not really full of stuff. It's got some bits in. Prit stick. It's no good for putting your models together.
I wouldn't
mean-
recommend it. No.
No, it's no good. You can't do
I
it.
mean, if you're making scenery and terrain, Prit Sticks is all right.
Even for that, it's a bit of a stretch to use a Prit stick. I mean, you squeeze it out, you slice some off. You can't even spread it with a. Like,
It's not butter.
if you've got an old like credit
What is
card,
happening?
I don't know.
happening
If you've
right
got
now?
like an old, just got some Prit Stick out.
if you've got like an old credit card, you can sort of spread that in the joints of your. So there's
What a fever dream.
What is happening right now?
a little tip there, and cleaning and polishing. Well, I've got Mr. Sheen.
I think this is.
Oh, we're being pranked, right,
Being
okay,
pranked by
yeah.
Paul.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Is that not good for polishing?
No.
Little Mr.
No,
Sheen.
we're
there? What
definitely
is
not going to be polishing models with Mr. Sheen, Paul.
it? Things I do.
Paul didn't
around
get the
here.
memo. I think this isn't how
That's my
letter opener.
yeah, but I use it as a lever upper for some of those parts don't want to go together so well. So getting a purchase on the wall sometimes is just levering those suckers into position.
Paul's pranking right now. We're being pranked by Paul.
You recently gave me one of my most favourite tools. I know it was only it was yesterday for us, but this is
the head rotisserie.
yeah, this goes out obviously a few days after we film it. So I've decided to have an upgrade. Right? Why should I just paint 7 heads in one go when I can paint about 60?
What the hell is that? And why do I not know about this? What is this?
I can paint about 60 on
This is
that bad
incredible.
boy.
I'm being okay. I know he's got out a Prit Stick and he's also got out a can of Mr.
I
Sheen.
know you're taking the, but this is actually quite good.
I'm not. I mean, if it had some kind of holder in the middle, that would be even better. What?
Yeah, you
What?
don't. Well, you don't
Okay.
need to. You can just hold on to
Where?
that.
Where is this from?
I think I know what that is. Is that a water balloon filler?
No.
Oh,
You are another guess. Come on, you are way off the mark.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. All I'm going to say, Paul, is that this has got a horrid mold line on it in the first place.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's plastic. Yeah. so-
How? What is this?
You don't know what that is.
No.
It's a very old tool that lots of.
No. What is this? Seriously,
It's a loom.
for knitting.
It's for knitting. You use it for knitting.
That's incredible.
You just you
You
weave.
can make like a dream catcher thing out of this, basically. Is that what it's
no,
like?
it's for making like woolly hats and things like that on it, and jumper. People make all blankets on those things, all sorts of stuff.
I think Paul's just created the best hobby hack ever.
But that's
Is
like
that the hobby
biggest-
hack for this episode?
I mean, it's not,
a
but
knitting loom for painting heads. I've got another one.
You
as well.
could
It's
use that
slightly
for more than
smaller.
just heads.
do they
though.
come smaller than that?
But yeah, they come in all sorts of sizes. But the other ones are good because the pins are a
Like-
bit closer, and so you can stand a marine on it. So you can have like 30
Oh no,
marines on it.
I'd use this just. I'd
fantastic.
use this.
That's
Just
like a
for heads.
spray
But
stick.
if you get a smaller one of these,
Yeah.
I wondered if you could mount it to the top of a shot glass,
What? We need a big shot glass to mount that
or
on.
like a.
We need
or-
a very small
or-
loom.
Yeah,
with 2 pegs on it.
but that's great.
I mean,
I know you pulled out. I know you pulled out Prit Stick and you pulled out
Yeah.
Mr. Sheen.
So
but
that's
but
quite
No,
good.
you could
hang
just,
on, wait. There's more.
There is one other tool that I think is essential, especially at my age, and that is my little pair of glasses. I have my little magnifying glasses
You're knitting.
for my
For
for
your-
my
for your-
little
for your
loo.
knitting.
You know, when I'm trying to paint. But yeah, magnifiers.
We've already gone on magnifiers for cleaning, building, and cleaning. They're very useful. This I think could be, if there's a smaller one, this could be inspiring.
Yes, you can get them in all sorts.
I don't think you
of
need a
sizes.
smaller one. Get a hose clamp and a bit of wood, and you've got a spray stick there.
Yeah, I mean that's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hope GW
I mean,
aren't watching.
I did
Yeah.
this as a bit of a joke, and now you actually want to use
I
something.
mean, yeah, Mr. Sheen. When you pulled the Pritt stick out of the Mr. Sheen ball, I was going, "Well,
yeah, I mean, there's not much
is
use
Paul?
for a
Is Paul?
Mr.
Is Paul
Pritt stick.
okay?"
Still
Like,
very confused by the letter opener.
just there's uses for those sorts of things.
yeah, we're going to take the letter opener away
From Paul.
Yeah.
As he wields it
As he
aggressively.
wields it, yeah.
I'll show you what
Yeah.
it's used for.
No, but that loom's actually really interesting. Yeah, if you get smaller size ones, you could mount it to something and have quite a nice.
You
quite
can
a
stick
nice-
models to that because the,
Yeah, you
the,
could,
the
definitely.
spacing
Yeah,
on
I mean,
this
I
is
reckon-
about perfect for a
for
model's
thir-
legs.
Well, for a 32 mil base,
My
probably
own joke
72.
has backfired.
Yeah, it
and
has,
it's actually
yeah.
been
No,
a useful
no, you know
idea.
what?
No,
Paul?
I think you've
we're
worked.
flipping this around.
Yeah.
That's a good one, that.
Joke's
Yeah.
on me, I guess.
That's good. It was just disguised with some Mr. Sheen and Pritt
Yeah.
stick and
No,
a savage looking letter opener.
And if you get a hose clamp, attach it like there, and then a bit of wood, all right, now you've got a big spray stick.
That's quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting that one, were you, Paul?
you could do your whole
or
army's
turn,
heads
you know
in
the
one go.
turntables used for an airbrush?
Yeah,
Just bonk that on top.
yeah, that's great.
You got little points to stick
That's
for your little
perfect.
your little sub assemblies.
That's amazing.
I mean, you could obviously drill it out and put sort of bits of paper clip in there, so they've got smaller
Yeah.
needles sticking out.
Yeah, solid plastic on the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Or blue tack. Blue
I'm
tack will
sold,
stick that
Paul.
just fine.
I'm sold. It's great.
Little tip for you there, hobby hack. I meant that absolutely. I wasn't joking at all with that one.
Right, well, I don't know how I'm going to edit that because that was insane. But thank you. I think
That's a tomorrow problem.
That's for you to worry about, not for me to worry about.
Yeah, that's a tomorrow problem.
Yeah, there you go. You're welcome.
Do you want to get even more from these podcast episodes? Patreon is the place to get exclusive Paint Perspective content every single week, including extended versions of the podcast featuring bonus segments you won't see anywhere else. Plus, as a member, you'll get exclusive Discord access, including monthly hobby hangouts with us, opportunities to ask your questions on upcoming shows, plus all of our podcast content completely ad-free. To learn more, head to the link in this episode's description or go to patreon.com/Siege Studios. I think we call that the hobby hack this week. I'm taking that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. We're coming up a bit on the fly, but I think that's
you weren't
good.
expecting that, was you?
That would come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's quite useful.
Even though it's bright orange and round. But yeah.
I mean, when I was getting out of the box, I thought actually that's quite useful. That would be quite useful for model for painting or doing something, at least undercoating in some way.
You're preparing the perfect Paint Perspective prank, and then
it
all the
backfired.
Yeah,
It backfired, yeah.
Yeah, but if it,
But
you
in a
know,
positive way.
yeah, sure.
yeah, no, I like that. I can see the utility in that.
Yeah, good.
I'm going to
Get yourself
jump back to my laptop after this and
just go
search
on
for
Amazon
knitting
and
looms.
get
So, yeah.
They're really cheap. They're really cheap. You can get them anywhere, especially on Amazon and stuff like
I'm
that.
going to have a look at them.
Really cheap.
That's great.
Nice. Okay. Should we do the hobby challenge? I think. So you may or may not know we do monthly painting challenges with our community here at Siege over on our Discord. Link in the description. Completely free. And the idea is that every single month of the year we have a different painting theme with a pun and name, and you are welcome to try to bend the rules if you will. But we have like a theme every month. The idea is for you to paint something new in a different style or a miniature you haven't painted before or a faction you haven't painted before. So the idea is just get everyone learning and doing something new, and also just like keeps you hobbying,
Keeps you interested.
keeps you going. So January was hashtag Catachanuary,
Wow.
and the idea was to do anything jungle themed. So as usual, there was a ridiculous amount of entries, so we won't be able to go through every single one, but we will feature them all on screen now. And we're just going to go through some of our favourites, some honourable mentions, and some rule bends.
Darcy Farah with the camouflage, Valkyrie and Chimera. Yeah, I think it's great. Really cool sort of like urban sort of like camo scheme. So I thought that was really, really good.
Yeah. My pick, there's obviously quite a lot on there, but what's I don't know whether this is a rule bend or not, but Big Guns Bonnie 72 has got an Ultramarines Eliminator. Obviously, he's bright blue armor with a camouflage cloak on the back, which is I think is so
Still counts, Scott.
it still counts. Yeah,
I think
so
we said camo fits within the non-rule bend department.
Yeah.
It was like I'm blue, but you can't see me.
I've always
love it.
thought that was quite a funny thing with how eliminators get painted, because I guess the idea is supposed to be that they have some sort of like, I don't know what the law implications are, but there's some sort of like cloaking device
In the
wizardry
cloak.
going on in the cloak,
Mm.
right? There's like a power node
Like
on
a
it.
Harry Potter.
So is
thing.
it meant to like
I
blend into the
think,
environment?
yeah.
Because they're bright red.
I know.
It'd be like a bright red space marine in the middle of some snow, and he's got a little cloak on.
Have you not seen
Where is
seen
he?
Frodo's cloak? Literally,
Mm.
it just
Yeah, fair.
Just hides him.
I've seen Harry Potter. I know how this
That's-
works.
He looks like a rock, doesn't he?
yeah, it makes him like a rock. That's kind of how I imagine that those cloaks work. They just like they have an electrical field around them, and then they go whoosh into a rock. That's
Yeah.
or into a.
But
bit.
I mean, Space Marines aren't generally hiding in the rocks. They're not.
Not
They don't
really,
look
no.
like they sort of want to hide anyway. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bright
It-
red armor.
they've got giant sniper rifles, but
Yeah.
then they've got a cloak. I think, if you just have a sniper rifle, don't worry about the cloak.
It's great.
Son's cloak is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
My pick was Conal 97, who's done a Lord Croak, which super vibrant. But it's in like a really cool jungle environment theme, which I think fits really nicely. They've even done some cool like water effects on the basing.
Yeah.
So the miniature is painted lovely and it's very vibrant, but kudos on the basing. I think fits the theme nicely.
Mm.
There is a fantastic rule bend.
Oh, there was many rule bends.
There was many rule bends, but the one that I think takes the catnip, let's put it that way, is done by Will, who painted this. He literally says, "Getting in early with a rule bend, more cat than a chan." So the cat model or the bust that he's painted looks great. I love the purple skin on it, or the sort of grey blue purple skin looks great. But yeah, I thought that was a fantastic.
So
rule
they've
bend.
gone with, it's not Catachanuary, it's cat. A January.
Yeah. I thought Will done amazing with that, so that's brilliant.
Nice. Yeah, well, massive thank you for everyone who submitted for January's Monthly Painting Challenge. February is hashtag February, and the idea is to do anything Tyranids, Gene Stealers, Alien Xenomorph, anything that fits in that kind of department.
That does
we'll leave that
include-
up to you.
That does include things on the base of another miniature. So
Yeah,
you could
well,
have
we've always
a
said
Tyranid head on a base.
We've
or-
always said the idea with these challenges is it doesn't have to be a whole model. So if you want to just like paint a little head as like a sub-assembly, or do something on some basing, or maybe you've got like a Chaos Marine who's got that spike that needs
a
impaling
trophy,
with a skull.
a trophy
Yeah.
of some sort. Yeah.
So we'll leave that up to you. So link in the description to our Discord server. There's a channel in there just for these monthly painting challenges. And anyone who submits anything in the month of February will be included. And then the first episode of next month, we'll go through all of the submissions. And we'll go through March as well. On that note, I think we'll round out the show there.
Wicked.
Yeah. We're going to jump over now to the post show, which is a benefit for our patrons. So if you want to get extended versions of the podcast completely ad-free, both video and audio format, and also get access to all of our high-quality PDF and video tutorials, check the link in the description of this episode. We also do monthly hobby hangouts as well. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you next week.
So I started watching it, and then I looked up, and Joe had a camera cheekily filming it. I was like, oh, what have I done? I was geeking out like you would not believe. Yeah, it looked fantastic.
Do you hate Space Marines and Warhammer and stuff like that?
Right, here's the thing with me, right?